Welcome or welcome back, and thanks for being here. I'm Cassie, and this is A Wicked World. If you haven't checked out A Wicked World on Patreon yet, and you want to have access to over 50 exclusive videos with new ones being added each and every month, then make sure you do that using the link in the description box below. Now, the story I have for you today is about a little boy who was adopted into his home, but his new mother and father continued to treat him like he was nothing but an outcast, ultimately resulting in his death. This is the story of Landon Maloberti. Landon Mason John Maloberti was born on April 26, 2017. He was adopted by Lauren Maloberti of Delmont, Pennsylvania in 2019, 2 years before she married her second husband, Jacob, who then became the boy's legal adoptive father. Landon was said to be kind, quiet, and smart. He loved to play with monster trucks and cars, sing country music at the top of his lungs, and eat pickles. He had multiple siblings named Caden, Annabella, Liliana, Joey, and Sophia. 3 of these children were Lauren's biological kids. 1 was from Jacob's previous marriage, and 1 was a foster child. The family of 8 all lived together at their home in the 200 block of East Pittsburgh Street in Delmont. On January 30th, 2023, around 6:30 p.m., 5-year-old Landon was rushed to a nearby hospital in Hempfield before doctors decided that his condition was so bad that he needed to immediately be flown to the Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh. Here, he would remain in critical condition for about a week before he would pass away due to the severity of his injuries on February 5th. So February 5th is the date that's listed on his obituary, but for some reason, multiple media outlets have his date of death listed as February 7th. When Landon had been brought into the hospital, he was completely covered in bruises, old and new. They were on his head, face, arms, legs, back, and abdomen. There was also one on his armpit that was in the shape of fingers, looking like he had been grabbed. The little boy also had multiple lacerations, including one to his left eye, as well as massive brain bleeding and swelling. He had suffered 3 separate brain bleeds, and according to a doctor at the hospital, his brain was obliterated. Landon's mother, 33-year-old Lauren, who had been home alone with him and the 5 other children, claimed that the previous morning the little boy had tripped and fallen down inside the home. However, he seemed to be uninjured and acted normal throughout the rest of the day and into the next. It was only later during the afternoon of January 30th that his mother started to notice that he wasn't feeling well and he began vomiting. When her husband, 34-year-old Jacob, later came home from his job as a corrections officer, instead of seeking immediate medical care for Landon, he decided to try to feed him and give him a shower. But it was around then that the little boy fell unconscious, and his parents finally decided that it was time to take him to the hospital. Lauren and Jacob would both suggest to authorities that many of Landon's injuries had been self-inflicted, while others were the result of him falling over the previous month, as he was still recovering from COVID-19 and was unsteady on his feet. But multiple inconsistencies were noticed between the parents' stories. It was also very clear to doctors that Landon's injuries were not merely self-inflicted or from falling down, but rather the clear result of child mistreatment. Additionally, Lauren and Jacob's terrible decision to wait an entire day to take him to the emergency room had also likely contributed to his death. Now, when the parents had originally arrived at the hospital with Landon, not only had they not shown a sense of urgency for the matter, but they had also oddly given his name to medical staff as Landon Ellenberger, his last name before he was adopted. Even more concerning was when Lauren started wondering out loud in front of doctors if she was going to be blamed for her son's death. Once an autopsy was completed of Landon's body, it was determined that his death was indeed a homicide. The little boy had blunt force trauma to his head and neck, blunt force trauma to his torso, and blunt force trauma to his extremities. Medical experts surmised that in the last few days to weeks of his life, the 5-year-old had suffered so severely at the hands of his adoptive parents that it left him unable to stand, eat, or drink. When authorities spoke with Landon's siblings, they would say that he was the only one in the home who had been mistreated. His parents often ignored him, kept him isolated from the other children, and he was denied medical attention when he needed it. One sibling told police that the little boy would often be smacked by their mother. Sometimes he was also sprayed with a water bottle and forced to drink from the toilet. Landon was always disciplined more than any of the other children, and his every move was monitored by a video camera. Additionally, he was made to sleep on the living room floor, and his mother would often spank him with either a wooden spoon or an open hand. According to one of his brothers, it was because Landon didn't learn his lessons. The sibling then added that when his brother was being punished by their mother, she would send the other children upstairs, and when she hit Landon, it would only make her angrier. Inside the family's home, investigators found adult and children's clothing as well as towels that were all damp with vomit. Additionally, during their initial investigation, they had spotted a web-based camera perched on a wall in the living room. But later, when they returned with a search warrant, officers found that it had been detached and thrown into a garbage can in the garage. They believed that Jacob had actually removed this when law enforcement was still at the hospital interviewing the doctors and nurses. The video recording belonging to that camera was never located. But regardless of all the suspicion that hung around the parents and their story of what had happened to their son, they wouldn't be charged in connection with his death right away. In fact, they remained under investigation for months, and it wasn't until August of 2023 that police issued a warrant for their arrest and placed them into custody. Both Lauren and her husband Jacob were charged with homicide, child endangerment, aggravated assault, and conspiracy. Lauren was additionally charged with first-degree murder. They were denied bond. Prior to the parents' arrest, they actually had the audacity to launch a GoFundMe campaign. The fundraiser, which was opened when Landon was still in the hospital on February 1st, said that they were seeking financial support because, quote, "Tragedy struck our family when our baby boy went unresponsive, and the outcome is not looking good. As we were in the hospital, Child Services took away our parental rights pending the investigation. I am devastated. We are devastated. We both need good attorneys. My kids are my world. Please help us fight. I can't live without our kids. I'm already losing my boy." The GoFundMe would end up raising over $5,000. But after the couple was arrested, those who donated were able to get a refund. When detectives had searched through Lauren and Jacob's cell phones, they found multiple text messages in which they expressed their clear and utter disdain for Landon. Shockingly, the mother had even once sent a text in which she said that she was going to kill the little boy. In addition, co-workers of Lauren's, she worked at a local pub, said that she often complained about her son. She would go on and on about how he was hard to love because he was difficult and a constant struggle. She'd even used the word hate to describe how she felt about him. When police had spoken to the boy's biological maternal grandmother, Kathy Jo Scheffler, she told them that up until April of 2022, she was able to visit with her grandson once or twice each week. And in that time, she had never noticed any signs of physical abuse. But after that, Lauren no longer permitted her to see Landon. This was, according to the mother, because the little boy was misbehaving. Though it was also said to be due to Lauren's jealousy, because he loved his grandmother so much, and he never told her that he loved her, which I can't imagine why. The grandmother had even asked to see him around Christmas time, but Lauren had just ignored her messages.
Kathy Scheffler is heartbroken after the loss of her grandson. She says her son died 15 years ago. Now this.
It didn't have to be like this. He was a sweet little boy. He didn't have to die. He didn't have to die. I just want justice. I want justice. I just want to know why. Why? Why did it have to come to this? I would have been there.
You would have taken him?
Absent a heartbeat. That little boy was the love of my life. It's hard to believe. I just can't believe he went through all of that. And he didn't have to. He didn't have to go through this.
Making this situation even sadder is the fact that police would announce that Landon had a history of being mistreated by his caregivers. This was even prior to him being adopted by Lauren. They didn't release any further details. However, according to multiple people online, Landon had been adopted by Lauren from her cousin after he had been taken from her due to mistreatment. Both Lauren and Jacob Maloberti are still sitting behind bars awaiting their trial. And it hasn't been publicly said what happened to Landon's siblings, but hopefully they are now in a much better home. Well, thank you for listening to Landon's story today. This poor little boy never knew what it was like to have a normal, loving family. And it disgusts me that Lauren would take him in knowing that he had previously been mistreated, acting like she was some sort of savior, then turn around and do the exact same things to him. What do you think about this story? So, if you like true crime and you want to hear it from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. And turn on your notifications too, so you'll know when I upload a new video, which is at least 3 times every single week. Thanks for watching A Wicked World today. Until next time, take care, guys. Bye. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon, so check it out on patreon.com/awickedworld, or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims are never forgotten and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a story you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email to awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.